Burnout is not a sudden collapse. It is a slow erosion, a quiet accumulation of ignored signals, dismissed needs, and a relentless belief that pushing harder is always the answer. Most people arrive at burnout not because they are weak, but because they are extraordinarily committed to everything except themselves. And the cruel irony is that the very drive that makes them exceptional is the same force that eventually dismantles them. Many of us have drifted from our bodies entirely, treating them like tools to manage or silence amid life's demands. We push through exhaustion, we shrug off tension, we dismiss the signals, and often it takes a jolt, a breakdown, a diagnosis, a moment where the body simply refuses to continue. Before we ask the question, we should have been asking all along, what has my body been trying to tell me? Because burnout is not inevitable. It is not a rite of passage, and it is certainly not a measure of how serious you are about your success. I built a system that makes burnout impossible, and everything in that system begins with understanding the extraordinary intelligence of your own biology. Let us start with the way we eat, because food is not just sustenance, it is information. Every meal you consume sends a direct signal to your cells, your hormones, and your brain. The idea of a rigid diet, counting, restricting, measuring, creates a relationship with food rooted in fear rather than intelligence. What I encourage instead is mindful eating, listening to your body, choosing fresh, organic, nutrient-dense food because you understand that what you put in determines what you get out. That sustained energy is the first pillar of a burnout-proof life, and yet even the cleanest nutrition cannot compensate for something most of us do unconsciously under pressure. We stop breathing. We shift into shallow, rapid, chest-level breathing the moment demands begin to stack up. That pattern activates the sympathetic nervous system and keeps the body in a low-grade state of emergency, hour after hour. 3 slow, deliberate, diaphragmatic breaths signal the nervous system that you are safe. The mind clears. The pressure dissolves, not because the workload changed, but because your internal state did. Breath is the most accessible reset button you will ever have, and it costs nothing. Hydration is another element that is chronically underestimated in its impact on performance and resilience. Water is not simply a thirst quencher, it is the medium through which every cellular process in your body operates, including the neurochemical activity that governs your mood, your focus, and your emotional regulation. What most people experience as mid-afternoon fatigue, brain fog, or irritability is frequently not exhaustion at all. It is dehydration presenting itself in disguise. When you hydrate consistently throughout the day, you are protecting the cognitive and emotional clarity that keeps you performing at your best. But of all the pillars in this system, none is more misunderstood than sleep. We live in a culture that has romanticized exhaustion, where wearing your sleep deprivation like a medal signals dedication. During deep delta sleep, the body releases growth hormone, repairs tissue, consolidates memory, and processes the emotional residue of the day. This is not downtime. This is when your biology rebuilds you. When you chronically deprive yourself of that process, you are not grinding towards success. You are quietly dismantling the very architecture that makes success possible. Sleep is not the missing luxury. It is the missing component. Running through all of these physical practices is something equally essential: the practice of stillness. Mindfulness and meditation are not abstract concepts reserved for retreats and wellness weekends. They are neurological tools. Short, intentional mindfulness practices during the day are not a pause in productivity. They are the very thing that makes sustained productivity possible. The mind, like the body, requires recovery to perform at its peak. And yet burnout can still find its way in through the door of perception. At its core, it is a story. I have no choice. I cannot stop. If I slow down, everything falls apart. When you shift from "I have to do all of this" to "I choose what matters most right now," your relationship to the weight of the world transforms entirely. Perspective is not a soft skill. It is a survival skill. This is where the lobster becomes one of the most powerful metaphors I have ever encountered. A lobster grows by shedding its shell, becoming completely vulnerable before forming something new. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the biological signal that growth is happening. When you see pressure as a growth signal rather than a failure signal, you build a resilience that no external force can erode. Resilience deepens when supported by emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize, name, and process what you are feeling rather than burying it beneath the next task. Emotions are messages in motion. Anger flags a crossed boundary. Anxiety warns that the mind is racing ahead of the body. Viktor Frankl said it best: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies your power to choose. And underpinning all of it is the language you use with yourself. Self-talk is not background noise. It builds who you are. Burnout is reinforced through phrases like, "I cannot do this," "I'm exhausted," "there is never enough time." These are chemical instructions delivered to your nervous system. When you replace them with, "I choose what is important right now," you do not just feel differently, you think differently, you act differently. Burnout is not proof that you care deeply. It is evidence that the system you are operating within is not aligned with the biology you are operating through. It requires you to begin, one pillar at a time, one micro-victory at a time. You are not broken, you are becoming. That is not a promise. That is biology. As I wrote in Think Yourself Thin, you are not behind, you are building. And when these elements work together, something extraordinary happens. You stop surviving your days and start leading them. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. What you do with this information is entirely your choice. And that choice, right there, is where your power lives. Until next time, this is Michael Abdullah.